Joining me now, Democratic strategist, Democratic National Committeeman Robert Zimmerman, New York Daily News columnist Michael Goodwin, syndicated columnist Miguel Perez. Gentlemen, good to have you here. Well, let's start out with a shakeup. You've got to be excited about the fact that first, Nancy Pelosi has begun to live up, and the Democrats in Congress have begun to live up to that 100-hour promise, a good start. And you've got to be, I would hope, excited about the fact President Bush actually got rid of a few generals who hadn't been able to deliver.
Well, first, on Speaker Pelosi's front, these are the most sweeping reforms since Watergate, both affecting ethics in Congress and lobbying. So it's very encouraging in that respect.
Absolutely.
And what the media, I think, will learn in the next couple of days is the reforms she put in place regarding the conference committees and how they address earmarks will also be very important in terms of shedding more light on that.
In other words, requiring that those parochial interests on the part of congressmen have to be disclosed, those earmarks.
As far as the military, though, very frankly, from what I see, President Bush has already reached his conclusions. Now he's trying to find the facts and personnel to justify them. And I still don't see a plan in place from this president, and I'm still very concerned.
Well, Robert's anticipating next week, isn't he?
Yeah, next week we'll get to that. But I just want to, if I could, on Nancy Pelosi, and I hate to be the skunk at the garden party, but I think there are two problems with what Nancy Pelosi has done so far. The first is she had a fundraiser as part of her swearing-in process, $1,000 a ticket. Now, Republicans did worse, but that is no way to begin with a fundraiser. In a sense, you know, here we are. I'm in charge now.
Government isn't cheap here. Come on.
$1,000 a ticket, not exactly the people's house. The second thing is, and I think this is going to be a challenge for her, is will she get an independent ethics panel? Will she get an outside independent group to look at Congress's ethics? Because as long as it's done in-house, it will not be done vigorously.
Michael, and it's never been done out of house.
Right.
Michael, ever in the history of the
So
Republic.
this is the challenge. This is what she's promised.
Michael,
Let's see if she can pull it off.
There's a difference between reform and unilaterally disarm. I'm glad Nancy Pelosi is raising funds and protecting the Democratic majority.
Miguel, are you thrilled?
I'm not thrilled. I think that it's just one little move that she's made that's kind of effective. It's still up to the Senate to see if they go along with it. It's still up to the president to see. I think the pressure is now on the Senate and on the president to make those changes. Right. But in answer to your other question, the president is playing with musical chairs. He's just shifted a few people around. What needs to change is the policy, not a few heads. Right. He is the guy in charge. He could have done the same thing with the same people he had before.
You guys are making me feel like a Pollyanna here. I'm excited about the fact that he finally got rid of a general amongst a host of generals who haven't been able to do anything, it seems, correctly in Iraq from the beginning. And Nancy Pelosi, I'm kind of excited. At least she's begun a process positively to try to push back that awesome power of over $2 billion in lobbying money.
The question is, how long are we going to be excited about this? And I think we're going to have to deal with reality pretty soon.
Okay. I think in terms of Iraq, Lou, that one of the things is that the president, as well as a lot of members of Congress, have been hiding behind the generals. They'll say, well, whatever the generals want, the generals.
By the way, you're right about that. I am so sick of hearing this president and the previous defense secretary saying, whatever the commanders say is what we'll do.
Yeah, and clearly it wasn't even true.
There was a chain of command.
It wasn't true in many cases, but ultimately the commander-in-chief is supposed to decide. I mean, I'm reminded of Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War. He was firing people left and right until he got the people he wanted to do what he wanted.
But let's remember.
There's a downside to it, too. Of course, you could end up micromanaging the war, as Lyndon Johnson did, picking bombing targets in Vietnam. You don't want to do that, but the commander-in-chief should put people in place who can carry out the strategy that he sets. We'll have to wait till next week to see what that strategy is.
We've already seen what that strategy is.
No, we haven't.
And we've seen this president misjudge the reasons for going to war, misjudge the troop levels that were required, misjudge the cost of this war, misjudge the response we received to this war. This administration has sacrificed any credibility and any right to the confidence of the American people.
So what are the Democrats going to do about it, and what are they going to do about it now?
What the Democrats are going to do is hold this administration accountable. And by that I mean you've seen the Iraq Study Group come forward with recommendations. You've seen Republicans and Democrats in Congress come together with recommendations. We just don't see the administration having the courage or the vision to pursue bold new agendas. This troop surge, which is an escalation, is nothing more but stay the course with more soldiers.
I hope that what has already leaked out, that the president is about to do next week is not enough. I think that he has to do a lot more. He has to come up with specifics and things that are going to produce results. If he doesn't come up with things that he can actually convince the American people, I'm going to do this and this is going to be the result, we won't go along with it.
We've just received word, by the way. I just want to bring everybody up to date, including you gentlemen, but certainly the audience first. Sam Brownback we have confirmed at CNN, will be running for president, and we'll have an official announcement on the 20th, which brings us to the subject of Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, John McCain. Excitement building.
Slowly. I think it's a long way to go. I think Barack Obama is clearly stirred at the whole race. I think he has upset it, and I think he's a real threat to Hillary Clinton. I think John Edwards is not a threat.
I think the premise is wrong, Michael, when you assume that Hillary Clinton is in fact the front runner. The reality is, there is not a front runner in either party. The concept itself is politically obsolete. This is a wide open race on both sides, and I think when you see the fact that Barack Obama is generating the interest he is, Joe Biden is generating the interest he is, Edwards is generating a great response.
What about John McCain?
And the Republican side, McCain, Giuliani.
You get so locked up on those Democrats.
It's of course a habit, but the point is you have a number of credible candidates from both sides running and a wide open race.
Let's turn to the issue of illegal immigration. Nancy Pelosi referring to it yesterday, about a little over half an hour into her tenure. They say they want it. What do you think, Miguel?
I think all the problems will be solved. The GPS, people coming through the border, all of these problems will be solved if we finally came up with an immigration reform plan that includes legalization. It definitely has to include a stop to illegal immigration from that point on. We have to get serious about stopping future illegal immigrants, but not without a legalization plan.
You can't do it that way until you until you put in place a program to secure the borders. Then you can't pursue an effective comprehensive immigration reform. And what concerns me most is that you had 27 Democratic senators vote for that fence along the Mexican-American border, and 64 House members vote for that fence, and they're going to be held accountable.
It's interesting to hear a Democrat talking that way, though. Well, sounds like a Republican.
And I think it's what's interesting, too, is that the campaign is over now. The Democrats picked up seats in both houses. The president
the congressional campaign.
Right. And I think it's time now. We're going to have to come up with some ideas, some real solutions. And so attacking just isn't going to work. And on Iraq, I think we have to give the president a chance to put out a new strategy, and then let's see if it makes any sense.
It's time for some grown-up work from all quarters in Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it as always. Thank you. Coming up here next, Heroes, our weekly tribute to this nation's men and women in uniform tonight. The story of Master Sergeant Kevin Davis, honored for his courage. Stay with us.